Thank you very much. We'll finish up the first set with a little number I wrote for Reverend Gary Davis. I've been trying to write a good song for him for a number of years. I've recorded a few different versions. This one here I was really pleased with, and it was recorded a couple of years ago by Jorma Kaukonen, which was a pretty big deal for me. Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, checks in the mail twice a month. Love this country. Tells the story of Gary Davis, who was from the Carolinas and went to New York to make blues records in the 30s and got religion and refused to play any more blues. Turned to Jesus. Came back to New York in the 40s. Sang on the streets for years. Nickels and dimes. The Tin Cup, Blind Man. Peter, Paul, and Mary recorded one of the songs they heard him sing, and the rest is history. Reverend Davis toured the world as a folk musician, guitar teacher, friend, and mentor to many. Tell you a story about a man I once knew. He was a blind street singing preacher that could play some blues, and his fingers picked the guitar. They danced up and down the board. He passed his days just singing, waiting on the Lord. People heard his message and they came from miles around. His pulpit was on the streets up in Harlem and sometimes way downtown. The preacher picked the guitar. His hands made magic chords. He passed his days just singing and waiting on the Lord. One day his angels heard him sing and thought he should be heard. You know, they opened ears around the world so he could spread the word. And his fingers picked the guitar. They danced up and down the board. He passed his days just singing and waiting on the Lord. Well, he sailed across the ocean to London and to France. He was thanking Jesus every day for giving him that chance. Preacher picked the guitar and his hands made magic chords. Passed his days just singing and waiting on the Lord. His voice was quiet, his time had come. He knew where he was going, where he had just come from. The preacher picked the guitar, his hands made magic chords. Passed his days just singing and waiting on the Lord. Told you a story about a man I once knew, a blind street singing preacher who played some blues. Fingers picked the guitar, danced up and down the board, passed his days just singing, waiting on the Lord. Thank you. Take a little intermission. Thank you.